One of the great litmus tests for our future economy is the demand for advertising. It's often seen as one of the first things to fall when nerves abound. It's also often one of the very last indicators to improve. Well, this week, one of Australia's biggest media companies, Nine Entertainment, forecasts that the third quarter metro ad market will be down in the mid-teens %. That's a sign of a slowdown. At the same time, Nine is investing in new content, rights to the Olympic Games, for example, and also digital platforms to build revenue opportunities. This week, I spoke with Chief Executive Mike Sneesby on the dilemma of costs rising faster than revenue.
We've always said that we'll take a disciplined approach to costs in our business, but over the last couple of periods of reporting and updating the market, we've also been very clear about the opportunity and the importance of growing businesses, growing digital businesses as we start to see the media landscape unfold. And of course, those investments come through as cost in our P&L, but they are direct investments in content, platforms and marketing that are driving outcomes. And one of the things you will have seen in the result today, whilst you will have seen some cost increases, you will have seen some phenomenal audience outcomes in terms of share of audience, particularly in the key demographics, the growth of audiences on our streaming platforms like 9Now and Stan, and the revenue that is attached to that. So we're very happy with those investments. Needless to say, this current climate requires strong cost discipline alongside of very strategic and intelligent investment.
Just going down to that, because if you're streaming, quite clearly, it's either on your own platforms or on somebody else's platform. On somebody else's platform, they literally sell the ads for you. So is this an area in the future where you generate the content that goes onto somebody else's platform, they sell the ads, you take a clip of the ticket? That means that there's actually even a pressure inside your own business here for less salespeople, fewer ad salespeople to go and generate the income.
Yeah, look, I think if you look at our generation of revenues across our content, it is primarily on our own platforms. Where we use social media or distribute content outside of our owned and operated platforms, it's generally to promote or provide a highlight around the content or the full range of content that you can see on our platforms, whether that's Nine Broadcast, 9Now, Stan or any of our publishing platforms. So it is a really important part of our strategy to ensure that our platforms are the destination. And again, it's also part of why you have to invest in premium content that is differentiated, that is going to bring consumers to your platform, whether that's news, current affairs, exclusive sports rights or Stan original productions, all things that people come to Nine and our various range of brands in order to consume and therefore which we monetize.
Let's go to the exclusive sports rights. You've just spent more than $300 million for the Olympic Games for 10 years. That's real money that you've got to pay. Then on top of that, you've got tennis. You've got the NRL that are key sporting assets for you. So the pressure to keep on paying more for those sports rights, and also trying to make certain you've got the digital assets along with those sports rights. Is that one of the real cost pressures that builds eventually inside all media companies?
Well, yeah, you have seen some increase in pricing on some of these sports rights, but it is a competitive market in order to secure those sports rights. But in that competitive market, the way that you can succeed is by maximising your opportunity to be able to commercialise those rights. And Nine is absolutely unique in this marketplace alongside any local or international media business in the breadth of platforms that we have in which we can commercialise that content. So when we come to the table to have a negotiation around sports rights, when our strategy team sits down and models out the revenue opportunity, we simply have more ways in which to deliver the content, more ways in which to monetise the content, and more ways in which to promote the content. So we are at an advantage when it comes to securing those rights and getting an outcome that is commercially viable for our business to monetise over the long term.
And what about the big international companies, the likes of the Amazons, the Googles, the Facebooks coming, who potentially could buy sports rights in the future? Is this the reason why now you try and buy sports rights for the longer term to ward off that threat for as long as you possibly can?
Well, yeah, but look, I think what we've seen in our competitive market in SVOD, Stan was in that market very early and has carved out a very important place at scale alongside of all of the other international players. It is one of the only profitable streaming companies in the world. That's a great example around how local media can differentiate and be focused in a particular area and be very successful financially in delivering outcomes. Sport will be no different in terms of how we think about that across the platforms. As it turns out, as you say, most of the major sports now in Australia have been tied up under long-term agreements, and I don't think that's a function of anyone saying, let's take them out of the market. I think it is a function of each individual deal that's taken place having to make sense in its own right, and certainly every deal that we've got, whether it's with the NRL, whether it's extending with Tennis Australia, or whether it's with the IOC and the Olympic Games, every one of those deals has to be able to stack up on a standalone basis in terms of its contribution to the business.
But then short term, tell me about the advertisers and their attitude. It seems as though many advertisers are hesitant right now, not quite knowing what consumer demand is going to be coming through the next 12 months with higher interest rates, higher energy prices and the like. What are you sensing from those advertisers right now?
We are no longer a business that is wholly reliant on advertising revenues. Subscription revenues from our publishing business, from Stan, sit on a different cycle to the ad cycle. And even within our advertising revenues across the business, there are different categories of spend that are actually performing at different parts of the cycle. For example, we've seen a very strong result from our publishing business in this half, and some of what's driven that has been strength in categories coming back into print advertising, categories like travel and luxury. So the benefit of diversified revenues, both in advertising and subscription, direct-to-consumer revenues, gives us a very distinct advantage in a difficult economic time like we're in now.
Mike Sneesby, good to talk to you. Many thanks for your time.
Thanks, Ross.